Please welcome Kate Merrick.
I've been staring at this water. I've been sitting right there, oh, just singing my heart out, just dying for a sip. This feels so good. Hi. What is up? I'm so happy to be here. I love you all already. I've been praying for you, which means I love you, because like God does something in someone's heart when you pray for them. And I have good news for you. You'll hear it over the next 45 minutes. And I also have to just kind of make a comment. I know I'm wearing sequin pants, and that's not normal. Thank you. It's very fancy. They've been in my closet for a few years, and just every December and January, I whip them out just for special occasions. So you won't see me at Trader Joe's in these, although maybe, I don't know. Maybe. I'm pretty fancy in my pants. And speaking of fancy, this is how fancy I am. This year for my birthday, I went to Mallorca. Does anybody actually know where Mallorca is? People are like, yeah, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Mallorca is an island off of Spain, and that is fancy by definition. So I went with a good friend of mine. She turned 40, and I turned something. And so we went to Mallorca for 8 days by ourselves. We rented a little Fiat convertible, and we're like driving all around the island, and we're like jumping off of cliffs and into the water and picnics and just like our best life. So we go to this beach, this like probably, you know, it was voted like the most beautiful beach on Mallorca. And so it's like a long walk. We're hiking down, and we get down to where the beach is. And the island is actually very rocky. There are a few sandy beaches. And, you know, listen, fun fact, I was born in Laguna Beach. Okay, so I have been a beach girl since I was born. I'm pretty sure there's salt water in my veins. My dad used to drop me off at the beach and go to work for like hours. Okay, it was the 70s, I don't know. Like, nowadays you go to jail for that. But anyway, I really, really wanted to go to this beach, and I was really sad when it was crowded. So we get down there, we're like, it's crowded. So we're like, okay, we're gonna find our own spot because we're gonna do it right. So we're hiking along, there's this like outcropping, right? And it's rocks, and there's this trail. So we're walking on the trail, and we're looking for a good spot. We're like, yeah, we're gonna be where there's no one else. It's gonna be amazing. So we find this cool spot. It's like this flat area, and it's pretty good. And we had brought like a picnic with like everything you ever wanted in a picnic, right? I have my little watercolor journal. I'm sketching, I'm painting, and it's a little bit in the shade, which is a little bit cold because it's October, but I'm like, whatever, it's good enough, it's working for me. And then I look back, and there's kind of like some people walking back and forth on the trail, and I'm like, whatever, it's working for me. I'm pretty much living my best life, right? So my friend Emily is like, hey, I'm gonna go explore. So she gets up, and she like goes over the little ridge, and I'm sitting there like, you guys, I'm literally like this, like painting. Like I feel so amazing. You know the days that you just feel amazing? Like I had like my best bathing suit on and my favorite hat, and I'm painting, and I feel so cool. She's gone, and so like after a few minutes, I turn around like this, and there's like 4 or 5 people sitting there on the ledge just watching me, and I'm like, rude. Totally trying to be cosmic right now. You're just watching, that's rude. And I'm gonna tell you a secret. Even pastors' wives like to get away with murder when they're somewhere where no one's gonna recognize them. And so I'm like, I could totally mad dog these people. I don't know anyone on this island. So like, they're right there, and I'm like, for real, like really bad. And so like I'm painting, and then I look again. You guys, there's like 15 people sitting there. I'm not exaggerating. And they're all just sitting there staring at me, like straight face. So I do it again. I'm like, and I'm like trying to be all my best life now. And there's just like people sitting there. So Emily, I hear, Kate, Emily's coming down the ridge. She's coming down the bridge. She's all, what is going on? I'm like, I know, right? All super rude. She's all, no, look. So it was like slow motion. She's like, I turn, and I'm like, there's this ship. A ship, like a giant ship, and it's purple and yellow. It's like the ugliest ship I've ever seen, ruining my aesthetics, but not even, there's a ship, it's coming at me, and it's got a gangplank. And the gangplank, you guys, is aimed at my head. She's like, watch out! And the guy on the gangplank's like yelling at me in like Mallorquin. It's like the language they speak there. He's like, it turns out it was the loading dock. So no one was there. I was on a loading dock, you guys, literally. And so I'm like, I just talked to Emily yesterday. She's like, you have no idea how close it was to your head. It was like so close to your head. So I scoop up my stuff, and my paints are everywhere, and my, my grapes and my bread, and I was so humiliated, and I did the walk of shame. And I looked, and you guys, the sign, it was like, no sitting, loading dock for ships. And I was like, I was so upset. I missed the signs. I missed the signs. Like, everyone was sitting there watching me, and no one told me I missed the signs. And you know what? A 3-minute walk over the ridge was paradise. It was warm and sunny. There was no shade. There was nobody over there, nobody walking by. The cliff diving was better. We swam through caves. We were alone. It was perfect. There was something so much more beautiful, so much better just over the ridge. And sometimes in life, there's a big, ugly ship coming at our heads, and everyone's watching it happen, and no one is saying anything, right? And we don't want to miss the signs because things are not always as they seem. That day was not always as it seems. And sometimes just over the ledge, just over the rocky ledge, is a more beautiful, truer experience. More water, sorry. So listen, I'm going to be that friend for you tonight. I'm going to be the one that tells you don't miss the signs, okay? Because one of our biggest problems at Christmas time, right, and really all the time, I think especially at this point in history, is being present. That's what we're here to talk about. It's a here now Christmas. And you know what? We just go with the flow, right? We buy what's being sold. We're doing all the things, getting all the apps, doing all the things. We're so busy, we're doing all the things, we're, busy, we're crazy, we're so connected, but we are looking for joy and love and peace, and we're wondering why we don't have them, right? We think, wait, it's working for us, but I think that sometimes we have a feeling if we look up, we might realize that there's something wrong, and that what we thought was working for us is not actually working for us. And so as we begin, as I'm talking about really the subject of being present, I want you to kind of ask yourself, where are you tonight with that? Like, do you feel like life is working for you? You're like, yeah, I'm doing all the things. I'm checking all the boxes. I'm getting it all done. I'm running along. I've got distractions and noise, but who doesn't? Whatever. And then maybe you take a step back and you realize, whoa, hang on, the hustle never ends. When's it going to end? Right? Or maybe you're in the middle of the holiday season and life is rough. I would bet my sparkle pants that that's true of most of us, right? And I think a lot of us are trying to drown out pain. A lot of us have broken hearts. A lot of us are refusing to slow down and listen, right? A lot of us are refusing to lean in to be present because it hurts too much. We're afraid of what we're going to hear if we slow down. And I want to tell you tonight that there is a more beautiful, truer place for you. There is, I promise. We're going to talk tonight about what it could look like to lean in and be present this Christmas and hopefully the whole year round, and what being present means and why it's so vital to life. Because let's take a look at life for a sec. Right? We're women in this room, so that means we do it all, right? You know this, okay? Like, so much depends on us, especially at Christmas time, right? And we do all the things that women have done over history. We work, we bear children, we feed children, we take care of our parents, our aging parents. We make sure that everybody in the whole house survives. We educate our kids. We're bosses. We're employees. We work in and out of the home. We are cooks. We are creatives. We are problem solvers and peacemakers. Like, we do it all, right? We do it all. But listen, every single day, we are being sold to. And I don't mean what's on sale on Black Friday. I mean messages. We are being told that there are things that we need to have in order to be okay. Things that we need to do or be in order to be okay. Messages are coming at us, right? All day, every day. You won't have love until you look this certain way, or you won't have joy until you have this product, this new whatever it is. You won't have peace until your life looks like your favorite Instagram feed. These are the messages coming at us. You won't have meaning until you burn yourself out trying. That's how you're going to find peace, love, joy, and meaning. And whether these messages are coming from media or culture or even our own heads, they're real, right? They affect us. They affect how we spend our days, our time. They affect how we live. And at Christmas time, it just seems like we function as if we please enough people by buying gifts we can't afford, spending time we don't have. We'll be loved. That's going to bring me love. We feel like if my Christmas photo is perfect, I will have value, right? If I find the perfect outfit, if I throw the perfect party, etc., 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 we search for meaning by being busy. We all do it. Maybe we're trying to drown out the tough stuff. I do that. That's my go-to. I try and drown out my tough stuff. Maybe this year you lost your job. Maybe this is the year your husband lost his job. Maybe this year you lost a loved one. Maybe this year you're mad at God. Or maybe the drama in your family is through the roof and you just can't take it anymore. And you don't want to feel anything negative, so you buy and you do and you plug your ears so hard that the hard can't catch up with you. I've spent a lot of years doing that. We are all searching for meaning. We are all searching for love, for joy, and for peace. And I think that right now we think we're going to find it in distraction. How many of us we just want to numb out? Like, I would say all of us. We numb out on momentary jolts of pleasure. We check our phones, right? Does anyone like me? Did anyone leave me a message? Did anyone like my photo? Right? Or we check our phones to watch other people live their lives. And we're so wrapped up in the people that are on the other side of the screen, while our actual people get our leftovers. Well, Jesus gets our leftovers. And we think it's working for us, but if we live that way too long, you guys, we're gonna look up one day and there's gonna be a gangplank coming at our heads, just about to knock it off if we don't make a change, right? And so I know it sounds so ominous what I'm saying right now. You're like, hey, wait, you started out so nice and now you're kind of a downer. But you guys, listen, there is something so hidden and disturbing about a life of chronic checking out and chronic overconnection. Because when we do this, when we refuse to lean into our season, right? When we refuse to lean into the moment, when we refuse to lean into our actual real lives and what's happening, the way we spend our moments is the way we spend our lives, right? Our moments add up to our whole life. And so you can say, well, how'd you spend your life? Well, this week was so busy, overcommitment. I was on social media. Do you know the average woman spends 2 hours a day on social media. The average teenager spends 9 hours on social media a day. That's real. How'd you spend your life? Well, I watched everyone else live theirs. Like, that's real, right? We spend our life on hyper-connection. Well, I emailed everybody back. Is that what it's going to say on your tombstone, right? I mean, we're choosing these things, right? I don't think anyone gets to the end of her life and she says, oh, I just really wish I spent more time online. Like, nobody. But that's what we're spending it on. We spend our moments, how we spend our lives is how we spend our moments. And it's the stuff that doesn't matter. It's stuff that diverts from our actual, real, beautiful lives. And in an attempt to find value or meaning or peace, I think we sometimes end up tearing our lives down one brick at a time. There's a verse in Proverbs, it's 14:1, and it says, "A wise woman builds her house, but a foolish one tears it down with her own hands." With her own hands. Y'all, we're tearing our lives down with our own hands when we continue to be distracted, when we continue to spend our moments on hyperconnection, on busyness, on stuff that doesn't matter. I don't want us to tear our lives down with our own hands. I don't want to miss what God has for us and what he has to say to us and what he has to show us. I don't want us to miss out on the true beauty of relationship with each other and with Jesus. Because listen, FOMO is real. We all know FOMO, right? You're like, oh, everyone's going to have FOMO. They weren't at the Virtue Christmas event, right? But friends, we are in danger of missing our own lives. Don't be afraid of missing out on someone else's life. Be afraid of missing out on your own. And this Christmas, just recognize that we are in danger of missing the beauty of the season and the pain of the season. But most of all, we are in danger of missing out on God's presence. So what do? Well, we got to see the signs. We can't be me wondering why everybody's looking at me like that and embarrassing myself. We have to see the signs, and then we have to decide to pick up and move to somewhere better, right? It's simple, but it's not necessarily easy. But we do need to learn to practice presence. And my journey to practicing presence was actually very dramatic. 10 years ago, well, Kathy told you a little bit of the story. So 10 years ago, my baby girl gets diagnosed with cancer. She's 5 years old at the time. And so we go into 3 years of cancer treatment. And if anyone here has been through cancer treatment, a child, a grandparent, a mom, yourself, it's awful. Like it's what your life is, and it becomes a frenzy. It's horrible. So we do that for 3 years, and then it keeps coming back, it keeps coming back, it keeps coming back. After 3 years, the doctors basically say, take her home and die. Well, they didn't say it like that. So we can make her comfortable. Those are the worst words. You never want to hear a doctor say, we'll make you comfortable. We can make her comfortable, and we thought that's not good enough for us. So what we're going to do is send out on social media, does anybody know, does anyone have anything? I mean, we are open to anything. American Pediatric Oncology did not work for us, and so sky's the limit. So we had a Facebook for her, or like a Facebook group. I don't even know what it was. I wasn't running it. A blog. My husband had social media. I had social media. There's just there's thousands of messages going back and forth. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? And we get, someone comes back and says, hey, there's a doctor in Israel, and he is brilliant. And he does all these experimental treatments, and that's probably your best bet. So we sat down with our oncologist, and he said, that's your best bet. So we're like, that's it. We're moving our family to Israel. We don't know how long we're going to be there, but this is what we're going to do. So we do all the things. We raise the money. We get ready to go. And one of the things that we needed to do to go was to harvest Daisy's stem cells. So we're sitting in the hospital at UCLA, and I am a beach girl. I'm a country girl. I do not like cities, okay? So all I see out the window is gray. We'd been there for a week. She's thin and pale, and her stem cells were not regenerating. We were waiting. It was like the 8th day of being in the hospital. And this is after, already 3 years of cancer treatment. And so I'm sitting in a chair by the window, looking out on the gray concrete, feeling sorry for myself. And I have Instagram open on my phone. And so I'm scrolling through. And as I'm scrolling, I'm getting more and more bitter and more jealous. And all I see is that everyone else is at the beach. And everyone else is at the barbecue. And everyone else have little girls with long hair blowing in the wind. And I am sitting in this hospital room with a little girl who's dying. And I was bitter in my heart and jealous and feeling worse and worse and worse until God said to me, look up. I promise you, I heard his voice say, look up. And then I heard it again, look up. And I looked up, and she's in her bed across the room. And she's frail, but she's spunky. And she has freckles, and she's smart and funny. And there was no one in the world who got to be in a room with that little girl that day but me. And I felt like God said to me, why are you looking at what everyone else has and completely missing what you have? Why would you do that? It blew my mind. I saw the sign. That was like it. I saw the sign. I saw the sign. So we finished in the hospital. I decided, okay, we're going to leave social media behind. I think this is it. We're done for now. I don't want to bring the whole wide world. I don't want to look at what everyone else is doing. I just want to be with my daughter. I just want to be with my family. And we're talking about, okay, what's it going to look like? We're going to, we're moving to Israel. We don't know how long it's going to be. And we're like, let's just see what it's like to lean into our actual lives. Let's see what it's like to not be distracted every other minute. And we left our phones in America. Just threw them in a drawer, moved to the Holy Land. We told our parents, we're going to email you once a week so you know we're alive. And other than that, you can't get a hold of us. And it was just the four of us. We had these teeny little flip phones that worked just in case, we got separated or whatever. But man, I got a crash course in practicing presence. A crash course in what it would look like to lean into God in the worst season of my life. And I'm so grateful for it. And you guys, it was a posture. I really feel like it was a posture. It was intentional. It was a posture of listening to God, of listening to each other. Because if I said, no, it's working for me, I'll just bring this along. And I'll bring along everybody on my phone, anyone who has my contact, anyone who could get my contact. That would have been foolish. So we took a posture of listening to God. And when we went to Israel, at first it's culture shock. Has anyone here been to Israel? Come on, I'm seeing some heads nodding. Culture shock, right? Because here we live in a hamster wheel, right? Like, come on, nothing ever closes. It's like hamster wheel lifestyle. And there it's a lifestyle of Sabbath. You don't get a choice. You do not get to go to the store on Saturday. Like, I don't care how hungry you are. Like, it's shut down tight. It's not even shut down tight on Saturday, like all day. It shuts down on Friday by like 3 p.m. You cannot get anywhere. They're getting all ready for Sabbath. Sabbath is like all the rage. It is. It's like this party every single week in Israel. And it's so fun. I mean, you guys, there's like food and they pour wine and they give blessings. We went to several Shabbat, it's Shabbat in Hebrew. We went to several Shabbat dinners with some families. And at this one, it was so beautiful. And this is every week, okay? Keep this in mind, every week. But at this one, they go around and the father blesses his wife. He lays his hand on her head and he says blessings to her. And the usual Shabbat dinner, the blessings are pre-written and you can say those. But this man looked his wife in the eyes and he blessed her and he told all of us what was so good about his wife. And then he did the same thing to his teenage son and then to his little daughter. And it was so powerful. And then they opened it up. You want to bless somebody? It's time to bless somebody. And I turned to my friend and I just blessed her. It was so beautiful. And it wasn't like, well, this is once a year. We do this every Christmas. They're like, no, we do this 52 times a year. It felt luxurious and indulgent to slow down. The work had been done. Everybody got to eat. It was just a party every week. And I stayed with this one woman in her little bed and breakfast, this one Orthodox woman, and she invited me in to light the Shabbat candles. And so in a Jewish family, the wife lights her candle and her husband's candle, and if the daughter is old enough, she lights hers and then one for her brother. And then she lights one for Hashem, which means the name in Hebrew. And then she closed her eyes and she starts doing this and singing in Hebrew. And I'm watching her and I'm wondering what on earth she's doing and if I'm going to be safe. And I found out what she's doing is ushering in God's presence. Ushering in God's presence on a Friday afternoon with her family. I mean, it does not get more beautiful than that. So where am I? Okay, Sabbath, life-giving, powerful. You guys, it changed our perspective on living, and it was so simple. But Sabbath's just not on our radar in America, right? It's just not. Like, we don't even think about it, much less think about honoring it. And you know what's crazy to me is that honoring Sabbath is an actual commandment, okay? It goes right up there with, like, don't steal your neighbor's donkey, and, like, don't sleep with someone you're not married to, don't kill nobody. Like, it's right there with it. And then it's like, honor the Sabbath and keep it holy. Remember the Sabbath, but we can't remember it. We think, well, what? It's just a day off work. What is that? It's more than that. It's more than a day off work. It's more than rest. It's more than just a healthy thing to do emotionally and physically. And this is the reason I think we have so much trouble remembering it. Honoring Sabbath is trusting God. Trusting God, right? With your work, with your income, with your reputation, with your relationships, with your health, with your time, with your business, with your accomplishments. It's trusting God. It's like, I know you said to slow down, but I think I think that's what's really what we're saying, right? When we don't honor the Sabbath, we're like, I know you said this, but I know better. I think I'm doing a better job than you, God. I think that's what we're saying. I think we're saying, I don't need you. I don't really need to spend time with you. I've got this. And honestly, I used to believe that slowing down was for weaker people. Honestly. I used to think it was for people with no work ethic or with not enough to do. Right? And I used to think that I was better for being busier. That's so embarrassing. But I thought I was better for doing more work, right? That since we had a church, that Sabbath was for everybody else but us. And I had this weird inner dialogue lie that said that being busy was the better thing, that never stopping was the better thing. But God wired into us this need for being present with our people and for being present with him, right? For releasing control. God said, you got to do this, girl, on a regular basis. You got to release control. You got to release striving. I think God's saying, you know what, honey? You lay something down, and I'm going to give you something so much better. And that's hard. It's hard because, real life is a lot. Right? We talked about what women do and how, like, if we don't do it, it's not going to happen. And what could it look like at Christmas time? And, like, an average day for me is, like, all week long, my husband has been in Hawaii. So my 5-year-old sleeps in my bed. She threw up in my bed. She had diarrhea in my bed. That's real. And then the next day, she gets up and she's like, bing, I'm awake, and she wants to play, and that's real, and she needs to eat, and I need to eat. My 19-year-old needs to eat while he makes his own food. But she doesn't ever stop. I homeschool her. I clean the house. I do all the things. I write the messages. I write the books. Like, work doesn't end. Laundry does. Anyone ever have an empty laundry basket? If you do, I want to meet you. Come up. I want to shake your hand. That's just not even a thing, right? And there's just so much to do. There's people to mentor. There's obligations. There's publishing obligations and speaking obligations and teaching obligations. Like, there's nothing I don't think I see on my list that I could just not do. Oh, well, I can just let that go. I just don't see it. But there's deep issues for that with me. Right? There's issues attached with the things that I feel like I have to do. I don't want anyone to think less of me. I'm searching for people's affirmation. I want them to think I'm doing a good job. I'm looking for love. Right? I do those things. I want the approval of my publisher, my readers, my husband, my people, my church. My self-worth is wrapped up in this. Right? If I can't get this done, then I'm kind of worthless. Like, there's issues going on here. Right? If I can't swing this, I'm a loser. If I disappoint these people, I'm worthless. And my inner critic just has a party with that. A party with that. But it's lies. And at Christmas time, y'all, we do. Right? Like, okay, we're surprised that you came tonight because we're like, well, don't you have so much to do? And I just want to hug you all for making the choice to come and be in each other's presence and be in God's presence, right? Because we do it all. We cook, we clean, we wrap, we shop, we decorate, we photograph it and put it on the internet for strangers to look at and comment on. And then we respond. I know, right? I don't remember where I got my pants. Like, that's what we do all Christmas long. And if Christmas isn't magical, then that's on us, because we have to get it done, right? And we feel like if we don't plow through December with tinsel flying, if we don't have an ulcer by January, somehow we didn't do enough. We mediate between families, we juggle awkward situations and sick family members, and there's melancholy at this time of year for everything that we're missing. There's a lot. And we distract, and we distract, and we distract. And we look for peace. We distract until it all goes away, and it doesn't go away. How can we find the love we're looking for, the peace we're looking for, and the joy we're looking for? I'm going to tell you, read you the story of Mary of Bethany. And I know, isn't it weird to be at Christmas time and not reading about Mary, the mother of Jesus? I love her, though. She's super cool. So Mary of Bethany, everybody knows. Well, if you don't, that's fine. I'm like, I don't want to assume we all know the story of Mary and Martha. You might know the story of Mary and Martha. They're two sisters. They live in Bethany. And this is a story of a dinner party that they decide to throw with Jesus, like God in flesh, Messiah, okay, coming to their house for dinner, which is wow. So this is in the book of Luke. It says, as Jesus and the disciples continued on their way to Jerusalem, they came to a certain village where a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. Her sister Mary sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he taught. But Martha was distracted by the big dinner she was preparing. She came out to Jesus and stomped her foot and said, it doesn't say that. Were you guys like, it says that? I knew it. I knew she was a brat. No, she didn't stomp. She's a little bratty, though. She's like, Lord. Doesn't it seem unfair to you? Can you imagine asking Jesus, like, you don't even know. Doesn't it seem unfair to you? Doesn't it seem unfair to you? My sister just sits here while I do all the work? Tell her to come and help me. First of all, you don't tell Jesus anything, okay? That's so audacious. But the Lord said to her, he's so nice. He's like, oh, honey, my dear Martha, you're worried and upset over all these details. There is only one thing worth being concerned about. Mary has discovered it, and it will not be taken away from her. Mary is a girl who faced real life. She had chores. She had obligations. She had like 16 guys coming over for dinner, and they have to like kill the cow first and stuff like that. It was like a big deal, right? She had other people's expectations. She had traditions. She had so much on her plate. So much on her plate. And yet, she risked it all. She risked her reputation, right? Like, it's not super appropriate in those times for a woman to sit at a man's feet and be taught the scriptures. Like, no one's going to be excited about that. She risked as being seen as lazy. She's not helping in the kitchen. Maybe as inappropriate. Like, who does she think she is? Right? She risked other people's opinion of her, right? She wouldn't be doing all the things that people wanted her to do, right? All those expectations, everything. She disappointed her sister. She defied cultural norms, all these things. But Mary was a girl who didn't miss what she had. She didn't miss what she had because Jesus the Messiah was in her home. Jesus, the Messiah, right? Jesus said that Mary discovered the better thing and it wouldn't be taken away from her. I think that's what the better thing is. God's presence. God's presence, right? Dinner comes around the next day. But Messiah is going to leave the next day. What are you going to do? What are you going to, Mary took a posture of listening. She took a posture of being present. Jesus was present with them in the flesh, in Mary's house. And we want to shake Martha and be like, girl, you are so dumb. Don't you see it? Aren't you missing it? Right? But we are Martha every single day. We miss our families. We miss our friends. We miss Jesus every single day, especially at Christmas time. And you know what's cool is the next time we see Mary, she's pouring out perfume on the feet of Jesus. If you know anything about Jesus tonight, I think if you got the chance to pour perfume out on his feet and wipe it with your hair, I think you'd take it. If you know anything about what he's done for us. But my point is that Mary's practicing presence with Jesus, it brought her the love she was looking for, the joy she was after, and the peace. Right? I don't think that making good on her obligations and cooking dinner and doing one more thing and being that much more busy was going to bring her that love, that joy, or that peace. But being in Jesus' presence was where it's found. And so our practice of presence, like Mary, begins with conviction, seeing the signs. All right, we're going to see the signs. What's going on, right? And then being intentional, choosing the better thing. Because we're in the middle of the season, the time of year that marks God made flesh. And like Kathy was saying, a baby? Have you smelled a baby lately? They're so perfect. They're so new. It's so magical. Did you know that God chose to be born of a nobody girl in a nobody town? He chose to become a refugee. He chose to be poor and mocked. He chose to spill his blood. A name for Jesus is Emmanuel, God with us. God with us. This is a God who hears us, who thinks thoughts about us, right? This is a God who takes our burdens. This is a God who restores men and women. Have you ever been restored? Girl, I have. My testimony's for another day. I've been restored by a God who's with me. Did you know that Jesus was so human and so God at the same time, but so human that he slept, he got tired, he got hungry, he got grumpy, he needed a time out, he got mad, he ate food. That is God with us. And I think we would do well to stop and allow God's presence into our lives, not just tonight. It's not just I did the virtue thing, like I'm good for the month. That's not going to bring you love, joy, or peace. Every day, man, every day, stop, right? And just be present with the Lord. And I love the idea of the night that Jesus was born. I love the idea of angels. I love the idea of singing and stars. I love the idea of hay and animals and dirt and outcasts. I'm an outcast. Are you? Have you ever been an outcast? You know the shepherds were like cultural outcasts, and that's who get to hear first the good news. Like, that is so good. Sitting in the beauty of Jesus' presence draws us closer to him. Paying attention to it draws us closer to him. It draws us closer to each other, and it brings us peace and love and joy. And I want to ask you tonight, can we be like Mary and choose the better thing? Can we choose the better thing? Can we see the signs? You guys, we choose the better thing moment by moment. Remember I talked about how we're going to spend our lives moment by moment. We're faced with choices, right? And when we choose to be present in the smaller things, it spills out onto the bigger things, okay? When we press into the things of right now, even if they're painful, right? Like being in the hospital, whether they're boring or whether they're beautiful and magical, it sets us up for pressing into the larger things, the things that we're facing, right? The big stuff of life. And it sets us up to welcome what God is doing in us, in our circumstances. And you should know that when I was in Israel, I didn't get what I wanted. I learned how to be present, yeah. That was one of the most beautiful and yet awful times of my life. I didn't get a healing for Daisy. She's in heaven. And I didn't get any answers. I asked a lot of why. Didn't get any of that. But I experienced God's presence. I experienced his presence, and it brought me through sickness. It brought me through death. It brought me through grief. God's presence. And now it still gets me through. It gets me through joy. Gets me through times of change. Gets me through my calling. So what does your season look like right now? Your season of life. This December, are you nurturing or facing a dying marriage? Is that your season? Are you navigating a dying relationship? Or maybe you're trying to bring peace between families or mourning the loss of a loved one. That was my truth for many years. It still is. What's your season tonight? Are you joyfully celebrating the return of a prodigal? Or are you just thankful to be alive and you just want it to be awesome? What about the season of your heart? What's going on? Are you trying to drown out the voices that say you are not enough? Where's your heart at tonight? Are you trying to earn love by accomplishment? By saying yes too often? Are you searching for peace by numbing out? It's not going to work for you. It's not. Are you looking for joy in doing and things and gifts and parties? Don't miss the signs. There's something better, more beautiful, and truer for you just around the corner. Let us lean in this Christmas to God with us. Let us dwell on the incarnation. Let us dwell on the astounding reality of God made flesh. Let us stop and say, yes, God, it is Jesus who brings peace, not an app, not an exercise, right? It's the good news of the gospel that brings great joy to us, not any amount of followers, not a new outfit, whatever, right? Great joy. To you and to me, people who have been in darkness have seen a great light. That is the most joyful thing I have ever heard in my life. Let us this Christmas give space to hear the angels sing glory to God in the highest. Glory to God in the highest. Let us hear the angels sing. Let us give voice to Jesus, who says that we are more loved than we can ever imagine. It is so much more real and beautiful than anything we have going for us. And so I want to be a little bit practical, and I have a big long list of how we can practice presence, but I think that I'm going to narrow it down to the most important things, hoping that you don't feel like, you know what, you just gave me 25 things. I'm going to give you 3, I don't know, maybe 4, we'll see. But I really want you to practice them. So how can we practice presence this Christmas? Start with prayer and journaling. Now, that might sound really cosmic to you. You're like, I'm not going to be the girl that writes in the journal and has all the thoughts. I'm not going to lie. I used to think those people were so exhausting. You go to camp, and there's the girl sitting on a rock for 4 hours straight. And you're like, you do not have that many thoughts. I don't know how you have that. Nobody has that many thoughts. Then one day I picked up a journal and a pen, and it turns out I have some thoughts. And it turns out if I say them, if I pray on paper, I can give it to the Lord, and it is so healing. So I want you to do this. I want you to journal. I want you to talk to the Lord. I want you to take time to honestly look at what is keeping you distracted and overconnected, and say, God, show me the signs. I did not see them. I had to have my friend come and tell me, you're going to get your head chopped off. So what are you chasing after? Right? Write it in your journal. What are you chasing after? Be honest. This is the space to be honest with God, okay? God, I just really want to be liked. That's true, right? That can be true. Okay, what am I doing? Am I chasing after significance? Am I chasing after love? Am I chasing after affirmation? Am I chasing after peace? So take time to look at it, journal in it. God, am I buying what everyone's selling without thinking for myself? Let him tell you. The cool thing is when we are honest with the Lord, and we tell him what our deal is, we can ask him to deal with it. So do that. So pray, journal. And then the next thing, this is very important. It's so simple and it's so helpful, is decide what your priorities are. okay? And then ask a question before you make decisions. So each decision that comes up, you're gonna ask yourself, does this line up with my priority? So if one of your priorities is to have a meaningful, peaceful Christmas, then you can say, okay, does this choice lead to that? Overspending, overcommitment, whatever it is. If I want to be a peacemaker in my family, will this choice lead to that? I use this one year-round in my life. In practicing presence, I think, okay, I've been married for 22 years. If I want to be married 50 more years, does this choice lead to a good, healthy marriage? It's so simple when you ask the question, because you can honestly be like, yeah, it totally doesn't. So honesty is the key. Then choose something better, right? Okay, next thing, 2 more things. So short, but so good. Daily carve out space to hear God's voice. How many of us you don't have to raise your hand. This is not a shame fest here, okay? I'm not shaming anybody. And by the way, I'm preaching to myself, okay? Preachers preach to themselves first and then to everyone else, and I'm still learning it. But what messages, what voices are you hearing first thing in the morning? Do you look at your phone and just, and then all of a sudden all your notifications come slamming at your face? Have you given God time? And I'm not like, hey, I'm not a legalist. You do not have to sit by the window and watch the sun rise and the birds chirp and pray to Jesus for an hour. Like, that's between you and the Lord. If you have 5 minutes, I didn't even get 5 minutes today, I'm gonna be honest, okay? But what are you listening to first thing in the morning? Are you listening to God's voice, or are you listening to the messages that are coming in? And so be wise. Be wise. Put your phone on airplane, because I use mine. I have a 19-year-old son. He has a midnight curfew, so I have to have my phone on. And then when he comes home, I swap it out to airplane mode, and that's it. So I can still look at my clock, but I don't turn it off airplane mode until I'm ready. Whether it's 5 minutes, an hour, whether it's in worship, whether it's in silence. That's a great way to start your day. And then the last thing is, and this is going to sound so judgy, but I say this in love, in sisterly love, because I love you so much. Look up. Look up. I think 100% of phones come equipped with, like, there's a button on the side and it turns it off. Do you know where that button is? It works. You should try it. Look up. Turn your phone off. Turn it on silent. Turn it on airplane, whatever it is. Take apps off that steal your time. If there's an app that's just constantly like bam, bam, notifications, or if you're just like, you know what, this is a temptation. I don't need to be on Facebook for 2 hours a day. You're right, you don't need to be on Facebook for 2 hours a day. Like, own it. Like, don't let it, like, you serve your phone, or what am I trying to say? Don't let it own you. You gotta own it, right? Don't let it master you. You gotta master it. And just keep in mind that when we're looking at our phones, when we're giving ourselves to this object, this rectangular device, that we are giving away our time to our actual, real, beautiful people. And that's just not a good deal. And so that's it. That's what I have for you. I'm going to pray for you because I love you, and I can't wait to worship one more song. Right, Kathy? Do we get to worship again? Oh, Jesus, God with us. You are a giver, not a taker. You gave me my little daisy love for 8.5 years. You did not have to do that. You have given each woman in this room a life. You've given each woman in this room some type of a family, a sisterhood. If she's in this room, she's got a sisterhood with other believers. You are a giver, not a taker. Thank you for showing us a more beautiful, truer way. Thank you for being the ultimate example of humility and love and presence and kindness and gentleness. Thank you that we do not have to be somebody with you. That you say, oh, dear Kate, you're so worried about all your stuff. Come be with me. Come be with me. We just want to say that we trust you with our stuff. We trust you with our moments. We trust you with our people. We say that those things are precious, but you are more precious. Show us the way of peace. Show us the way of love. Show us the way of joy. Jesus' name.